keep Satyrine within you alive while we're away. Goodbye, good luck, I miss you. Remember me, Vissley.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Hole in the World, an actual sun, an Invisible Sun actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG by Monte Cook Games. I am, as always, your GM, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zamino. I use he, him pronouns, and I am joined by one of my four cast members this evening. Marissa, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa. I also use she, her pronouns, as does my character. I'm an editor of books, TTRPGs, and video games, known as Critical Kitten, with a variety of punctuation here and there on the internet. I have editorial skills. If you need editorial skills, you can check me out at www.marissacores.com. I have an editorial eye. Please use it. But here tonight, I am playing Kyrriel von Hollingsworth, the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance. She is an aromatic stoic who understands the words, guardian of Zaleska's grimoire, curator of King Nine's library, maven of mirrors, and bearer of a seed of truth, apparently.
Apparently. So a lot has actually transpired. If you have been catching up, this is probably going out to you guys post. We're probably in the middle of 2024, let's be honest. If you are watching this is a pre-recorded episode that we have shot in December of what was last year. And several things have transpired, as I've already noted in Bill's side scene, is that the crowdfunding campaign for the third reprinting of third printing rather of the Invisible Sun, the Black Cube, came and went and was a grand success, and there's probably a few thousand new people learning this game and really enjoying it as much as we do. So welcome if you're watching this for the first time. The other thing that is transpiring is that all of our players have actually been doing one-on-one development mode scenes because they have recently finished their sojourn to the Gold Sun, which leaves them back in the world of Satyrine. But logistically speaking, the second season has concluded, and we are doing these development mode side scenes to lead into part 3, the final part of The Hole in the World. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give a quick recap of where we last left Kyrriel von Hollingsworth, and from there we'll kind of jump into our side scene. So let me pop on our old theme real quick, and we will get started in earnest. 1 second. There's the old good one. There we go. So when last we left you, Kyrrie, you had just emerged from the Gold Sun, learning a terrible truth about the dark, maybe about yourself as well, even going so far as to grasp the hand of your mirror self as you kind of exited or rested from the battle with Avenant, the Fervent, a Vespertine agent of particularly repugnant kind. And so you and the rest of your compatriots managed to save a whole tribe of Elderbrin, and also, as well as her elegance, the mistress of the Melodious Manor. And now we find you in your first day, having returned to Satyrine through the use of Gavriel's abilities, or perhaps your own, maybe even going so far as to witch step back into your domicile. So I want to kind of capture your mindset going into this. What is going through your mind? Where is Kyrrie as we find her in Satyrine this day?
Yeah, I think Kyrrie is really at a loss, I think. Like, she feels almost numb, like very ungrounded, as though the roots of the tree that keeps her stabilized and grounded to Satyrine have been, I suppose, without any kind of performance, uprooted, pulled up from the ground. And she's kind of aimless, kind of uncertain, at least in her mind. I think there are a lot of truths that she's now questioning, truths that she's believed were implicit, that now she's not so sure. And so as Kyrrie returns to Satyrine, these are the things that are at the forefront of her mind. Knowledge has always grounded her. Knowledge has always been the thing that she has relied upon. And when she doesn't have it, or her knowledge seems to be contradicted, her response is always to try to gain it. So I think that is really what she is driven to do first and foremost as she returns to Satyrine.
Excellent. So what does this pursuit of knowledge upon your return, where does it lead you?
Yeah, I think she, first and foremost, I think arriving back in Satyrine, it's a strange feeling. It's like coming home to a place you know, to a place where you've lived a lot of your life. And yet, for Kyrrie, it strikes her quite suddenly that she doesn't actually have a home here. That the university has always been her home, but it's one she's shared. It's an institution. It's auspices under which to do her work. She's never had a home the way that Twig has a home, or the way that Gav has made the place in the Ruin Expanse her home. I think Kyrrie is struck suddenly, kind of connecting to this rootlessness, this feeling of uncertainty, that she's being tossed on the tides of a sea that might take her somewhere she doesn't know and can't anticipate. And as she looks around the city of Satyrine, she, I think, feels this weightlessness, this ungroundedness, both in the truths she has now learned and this realization that, where do I go? Most people go home. That's the first thing they do, to check on their loved ones, to check on what they need to check on. But for her, that is her work, not really her home. With this realization, I think, firm in front of mind, though, she'll go to the closest thing she has, and that's her university, the Vancian Campus.
Excellent. So as you begin the sojourn to Fartown, to alight on campus, I am going to turn a card in the Path of Suns. Oof.
Oh dear.
This one is the Harvesting Spider. Let's see. Spiders are so many things: builders, weavers, and caretakers, but also hunters, killers, and blood drinkers. The spider cares for her young, but at the expense of what she harvests, and that just might be you. She is stealthy and sneaky. Her many footsteps are silent. Regardless, spiders never stop working. They build and create to serve specific purposes. As terrifying as this card appears, its meanings are more esoteric but still significant. The always active spider signifies action. Act. Immediately. Work. Hard. Success can be had, but only as the result of action and toil. The harvesting spider is also a subtle hunter, and thus can suggest that stealth might be required in one's endeavors. Someone takes actions. People labor to achieve a goal. A newly erected structure becomes important. Various forces debate over a single important action. Thieves or spies are active in the shadows. I like that one a lot. So, as you find your way back to the campus, you are starting to head back to, I believe, your library. The if you'll remind me, the very advanced term for your library.
Yeah, the A.R. Quarian Memorial Library for Rhizomatic and Esoteric Studies, a place we have not been since season 1 of this show, I do believe.
Excellent. So you find your way back to the library, to this very welcoming place, but almost immediately you find yourself on edge and on your guard as you realize that there are uniformed people moving into the facility. The uniform is at once both familiar and then immediately terrifying as you realize that the people that are going inside are members of the Thaw, the citywide police force. What do you do?
Oh no. Yeah, Kyrrie's hackles immediately raise. there should not be police in her library. Her knowledge should not be policed. The university, I think, historically has always been sort of left to its own. It has a somewhat tendentious relationship with the city, which is recognized by the festival every year, way back when, where the city is welcomed in to experience some of the research that the academics at the campus are participating in. But in general, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have the impression that the campus has been left fairly enough alone in respect to this level of police detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically the forces that police the Vance, or the Vancian Campus, if you can even call it that, are typically the Parasod and the basically kind of disaster triage force that was established upon the death of Orod. However, or I should say sacrifice of Orod. But at the same time, not only that, but the Vestad are typically in charge of kind of internal policing as well. So as far as you can tell, you do see a couple of Parasod agents, but they seem to almost be kind of like kept at arm's length by the Thaw as they are going in and out of the library. This is indeed something very foreign, very unfamiliar, and as I said before, and I think as you're kind of pointing out, very, very unlike business as usual.
I think the things that run through Kyrrie's mind instantly are kind of what happened or what was happening or unfolding when she last was on the Vancian campus before the whole crew departed for a different sun. And that was that there had been some Vance who were murdered, and also some Vance who were missing. And among their ranks, one of her dear neighbors, Alinea, who, as far as Kyrrie knows, having just returned to town, is still missing. There had also been a political coup where Yadavastra, who was the Grand Magus of the university, had been effectively ousted by someone called Ota Clasp. And Kyrrie had met and found Yadavastra in their hiding place in a big mansion inside of a book, as I recall, in a little back corner bookshop alleyway. But what Ota Klempt, I think, was doing on the campus seemed not necessarily above board to Kyrrie. And her other neighbor, Guy, I think he was somewhat in her retinue, as far as I recall, and that he had been promoted above her. Last Kyrrie remembers seeing him, he was sort of walking with her. And something that Kyrrie did way back when was she took basically proof or some of Ota Klemp's notes, some things which were not necessarily completely incriminating, but would have be damaging to her in some way, and provided them to a Satyrinian journalist whose contact information she had on hand from the party, having encountered them from quite a while ago. And so she basically did that and ran, so has no idea how any of that has transpired, but it doesn't seem to Kyrrie like the Thaw encroaching on the campus is probably a good sign for how all of that may have panned out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my question is, what are you doing in this moment, having kind of like, as you have this internal kind of monologue, or not internal monologue, but this internal kind of observation to yourself? What are your next steps? Are you going to try to proceed stealthily into the library, or are you going to take a different tack? What do you want to do?
I'm obviously getting into my library. We're going to see what the heck is going on here. But we're going to do so stealthily and smartly in a strategic and orderly fashion. So I think the first thing Kyrrie's going to do is, I think she's fairly decent at blending in with sort of other academics at the campus. And I think what she kind of wants to do first is sort of see the protocol. So other people entering the library, what do they do? How do they interact with the Thaw? What do those interactions look like? Mm-hmm. And once she's observed some of that, I think she will make an attempt of her own. She does have a badge to get, she was employed. She was a first assistant librarian of this library specifically. So, she has security clearance, as it were, but she may have to be clever about why she hasn't been here for a little bit of time. But I think her tack is, I'm going to play this straight. I work here. Let me through.
Absolutely. I will tell you this. So I need to go ahead and pull another card, just to see something real quick. All right. Enticing Jewel. Its color is invisible, so it is protective. Greed, money, beauty, goals, success, the light at the end of the tunnel, the brass ring, the center of the target. The object of our desire lies before us in the form of the enticing jewel. We want it. We have to have it. It represents beauty, but the side of beauty that demands attention and probably possession. It is the beauty that can sometimes call to our darker natures. It brings out greed, ambition, and selfishness. It shines in the darkness, its beauty mocking me. Its absence from my possession is a wrong that must be righted. Okay. So, an NPC. Okay. So, I think what ends up happening is you begin observing that as you start kind of like making your approach to the library, you start observing that the librarians and the Vances moving into the library are being stopped, halted by the thaw, and being kind of given a full check and investigation as they begin asking very pointed, very gutturally uttered questions. It doesn't seem like there's any niceties to the process. They seem to be looking for someone in particular. And it is as you have this realization that you feel a grasping hand on your shoulder pulling you backward, as if away from, I'd say gently, but very firmly away from the entrance to the library.
Yeah, I think Kyrrie will sort of start and turn around quickly to see who it is, almost like protesting.
Yeah. At which point you stare into the eyes of Guy, who is looking at you. Said, "They're looking for you. Stay here. Stay away."
Me? Yeah. Why me? And you? And she narrows her eyes.
He begins kind of like herding you away to another part of the campus. I think he's kind of like starting to head towards the main memorial hall, just down a different quadrangle, and trying, as you realize, to be as inconspicuous as possible. And he seems to give you this little kind of ephemera, almost like a ribbon. He says, "Please put this on."
Okay, I think Kyrrie is suspicious here, but there's something I think about Guy's affect that is just so different from the Guy that she knows, her sort of like friendly rival, like where the sort of pompousness is gone, the prideful nature is gone. I think she doesn't really know what Guy is like when he's serious, and this seems to be it. So she dons the ribbon as requested.
As you don the ribbon, you cannot help but notice that the tresses of hair that are on your shoulders turn from your normal kind of brunette, chestnut or auburn, I believe, kind of color to a stark, almost platinum blonde. You see almost the tonal shift of your uniform as well for the Vancian Campus. I was going to say your commendation or your rank changes to that of a higher Vance. And you realize that whatever he has pinned to you is an ephemera item that has essentially changed your identity. You do not know how long it will last. And as to almost to this effect, he says, "I think that should last for at least 1 to 2 hours, but things have been strange." And he's just kind of continues, "Just walk with me."
Of course.
And
Yeah. How long have I been gone?
Just a few days, but it's only in the past day that they have been looking for you.
Why would they be looking for me?
You are wanted as part of questioning. They did not go into specifics. And you really do not refuse the thaw. They seemed to know, either from previous interrogations or through some other means, that you work there.
Wait. Are you telling me that the reason the Thaw are on the campus at all is me?
Yes. And it's not like we had the means to stop them. I've done some digging. There was something about what you said to Ota. I did a little bit of investigation into the campus, the disappearances. I have a theory, but I'm not sure. I think that the people that have gone missing, the people that also have been found deceased, they're members of an internal police force. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Not just the Parasad.
You realize just very quickly he is mentioning the Veshtad without realizing that they exist.
Ah, yes. I think she nods.
I'd heard... Yes?
Oh, yes, well, that makes sense. What have you managed to find out about this internal police force?
Well, they are largely... They and several of the Parasad members that are more overt or more well-known, they are the ones that have gone missing.
And do you have any idea why?
I had to assume that you did, because they're looking for you.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, Guy, but there's any number of reasons they could be looking for me, and I assure you it has nothing to do with disappearances, or unless if it does, it's... Well, if it does, we have more of a problem than you know.
Well, help me, because it seems very much in the way that they are questioning all of us that you are responsible for these disappearances, and not only that, you've been gone for almost a year.
A year?
And
I've been gone a year?
He's referring to your previous absence.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Well, that was different. And I came back after that.
Yes, but all in that time, so many people were disappearing. I had to... Why... Frankly, I don't think you have the ability in you to actually triumph over any members of secret police, let alone any well-standing members of the Parasad, but it's a very great leap of faith that I'm making, so please do something to allay this fear.
Oh, well, thank you for the vote of confidence, Guy. In my abilities, if nothing else, but I assure you, I didn't do anything. This is not on me. I'm as interested in what is happening here as you are. They took Alinea, of all people. You remember Alinea. She lived 2 doors down from you.
Why do you think I'm sticking my neck out? Of course I remember Alinea.
What? So you think that I would have done something to Alinea?
I don't know. It seems to be what they're suggesting. What I think Ota says through omission.
Ota. Are you still in her retinue? I remember she promoted you.
Well, it definitely presented me with an advantageous situation. I am, of course, suspicious now of her as well. But
I'm glad to hear it.
I don't know who to trust. They were shaking down Ardeno as though he was some common street mage.
Deno, is he okay?
He's fine, just shaken, but I think that we're all under a bit of tension, a bit of pressure, as it were. It seems like we're just being so much more isolated from the rest of Fartown, and it had always been like that, but it's never been quite the same as it is now.
That doesn't surprise me. I wish it did. The
What-
ramifications are severe, though. If they have control of the thaw, well, that means they have control of something far greater in this city.
Wait. Who is they? What they?
It's a long story, Key. Do you trust me?
No. But I don't really have much of an option now, do I?
I suppose not. But I need to know that you trust me enough not to tell what I tell you to the world, the campus, everyone.
Very well.
You promise you won't run your mouth?
I wouldn't speak a word of anything I say to you to anyone. You're liable to get me killed.
Yeah, well. Be that as it may, what do you know of the Vespertine?
And I'm going to turn a card to see if Guy knows anything about the Vespertine. Ooh. The Messiah, the defender of visions, swans, blades, and water. Change, salvation. Yeah, I think something changes drastically. A new leader or other prominent figure emerges. Change, okay. And I think in this case, it is essentially that Guy has changed a great deal since the last time you met him. He said, I have heard things about several secret societies. I began doing some digging when I heard about the presence of a secret police in the Vancian Campus of all places. But everything I've read about them, it seems to get more and more, well, confusing. In some texts they're a cult, in some texts they're a secret society of powerful mages, in others they're bloodthirsty psychopaths. It's strange. It's almost as if the disparity of the accounts are meant to hide something greater.
If that was your working theory, you might be onto something. Guy, the Vespertine are not good news. They're planning something big, something with catastrophic consequences, not for just the Vance, not for just the campus, not even just for Fartown or for Satyrine. The whole cosmos kinds of consequences. And it's...
You're pulling my leg. There's no way that... something I know that the import of the Vancian Campus cannot be overstated, and the Order of the Vance is the forebearer of great knowledge, but the cosmos, really...
I wish I was being hyperbolic, but I'm not. I came from the Gold Sun. That's where I was. Things are happening out there, and they're not good. And have you ever heard of a Vance called Marlowe?
And he kind of searches his mind and looks at you and says, no, I don't think I ever have.
Pray that you don't. But if you do, if he makes himself known here in whatever sort of guise, oh, you'll know when you see him. He's a harbinger of something much worse than a police force on campus.
Understood. Well, what are you here for?
I needed information. That's why I'm back. That's why I thought my library would be a safe enough place to...
Well, is there any place they know that they won't look for you?
on the campus was my home. All of it.
Can what you are looking for, what you are trying to find, if it's in the library, is there any means of obfuscation? Anything I can do to help? Because this can't continue, and if you have some means of stopping it, or know someone that does, I can help to the best of my ability.
That's what we're working toward. I think she gives Guy a very searching look.
Okay.
You're not in league with Otaclasp anymore, or Otaclempt anymore, are you?
I think
promise.
I think it is clasp. Sorry, I'll have to check my notes. She frightens me. I would not be out here talking to you, stopping you from any sort of official investigation. I imagine before you left for your extended travel, I would have been frankly very excited by the fact of a bunch of officious thaw rooting you out once and for all, but this is different. Things have changed. Things are bad. And I don't think I ever thought I would say that about the Order of the Vance.
No.
When Zaleska left, as much as I disagreed with their approach, I didn't realize how much of a stabilizing force they were.
Yadavastra, you mean?
Yadavastra, pardon me.
Yeah.
And
I know you might not trust me, but I do need to know if I can trust you. And I think she holds up the hand that has the seed of inner truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
And she would like to effectively offer it to Guy as like a sort of do you trust me gesture. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think she will ask of the seed for it to scan Guy and like sense whether or not he can actually be trusted with important information.
Okay. This is a card pull. Oh boy. The Dangerous Elixir. Its color is indigo. It weakens gray. Its meanings are power, transformation, risk, and consequences. Powerful magic comes in small, perhaps even innocuous forms. The Dangerous Elixir proves that to be true. It is powerful and transformative, but is it a boon or a bane? Are the potion's effects harmful or helpful? It's all about the risk you're willing to take and the consequences you're willing to face. This card turn offers power, but at a risk. Power can backfire. The Dangerous Elixir promises transformation, and that can be literal or it can be figurative. It might transform a situation, changing the outcome of events, but there is still always that risk. Something's going to change, but will it be good for the person in question? Should one turn the Alchemist and Dangerous Elixir consecutively, this is called the Ultimate Transformation, and it suggests total and complete upheaval of the situation and possibly someone involved in it. All right. An NPC takes a terrible risk to get what they want. Something or someone is magically transformed. Current events clearly carry major consequences depending on their outcomes. Okay. So here's the thing. We have pulled this card, this one card that's very important. I'm going to pull another to see if we do get the Alchemist.
Oh man, if we do, that would be insane.
All right. Oh no, we do not get the Alchemist.
Oh. Well, maybe that's a good thing, depending on how world-shaking, blowing up, getting the Alchemist would have been. But I mean, for something called the Ultimate Transformation, it could have been pretty bad.
We get instead the Vizier. which is the nemesis of notions, cats, clocks, and wind.
Damn it, Monte Cook. Like, this is just like reading the situation here. We're just okay, cool. Yep. Give me the vizier. Yeah.
The meanings are manipulation, sycophant, power, and influence. Lurking in the shadows, the vizier controls from a distance. They do not sit upon a throne, but instead are the power behind that throne. They don't make laws, they circumvent them, but they do it to further the ends of the ruler, the land, or perhaps themselves. The vizier has secret agendas within agendas. Their smooth words manipulate everyone, even the ruler they supposedly serve. Thus, they have much of the real power and influence. Are they acting in the best interests of the ruler or themselves? How can we ever be certain? The vizier is the nemesis of notions. They cannot be trusted. The right words in the right ear can be more potent than any spell. So,
we got two of the most political cards for an extremely political situation. Great.
I will say this. When you offer the hand, I think that there is an indigo glow to it. Now, I'm going to leave this part to you. Is it more interesting that Guy clasps the hand and you learn something, or he does not and you learn something else?
Interesting. Gotta say, my interpretation of those two cards together is that I just think narratively, even if Guy here is telling the truth, and even if he is willing to help, and even if he isn't in Oda /Clasp's back pocket, right? And that everything I say will ultimately go to her ears directly, I think Kyrrie has this sort of realization that Guy is corruptible. That, like, if she just tells him things, no matter how genuine he is being now, those things could be used against him. Those things could be put, like, he could be implicated by those things, and ultimately the aims of the enemy could be furthered by virtue of either Guy making a deal and overtly choosing the side of power later on, or effectively that being wrenched out of him and used against him, and that being her fault for having given him that information.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think I will toss it back at you, Zach, to like, what do you think that Guy, based on how genuine he is being in this interaction, like, sliding scale, if he's actually being quite genuine here with Kyrrie to the best of his knowledge, I feel like he would probably take her hand. But if there is something else kind of going on and he's been sort of planted to like guide her in a certain way or help her in a certain way, and he's being used by a different sort of force, then I think he probably wouldn't, particularly knowing or seeing that a seed might be involved.
I will tell you this. He clasps your hand.
Okay.
And there is the voice of inner truth in your ear as you look into this man's eyes and you see instinctually the totality of him, which is he is a sycophant and a political animal from a very long line of political animals and sycophants. The fact that he is a Vance seems to be more of a matter of convenience than of earnest love for the pursuit of knowledge or the companionship of spells. What you gather from this interaction is that perhaps he is being genuine. Perhaps he is in all sincerity trying to help you and trying to make this campus better, or to kind of root out the problems that have suffused it. But if he is, it is to his advantage. It is a return to a status quo of which he was on top. He was. It was a turn of fortune's wheel on which he was on top of the wheel at that point. So I think that your inner voice says, you can trust this man to do what is in his best interest as the opportunity presents itself. You know this about him. You knew it about him. Trust yourself.
And I think Kyrrie sort of tilts her head a little bit, almost imperceptibly, like looking Guy into his eyes. And there's a kind of sadness, I think, in hers, a realization that here she thought perhaps her rival could be her friend, and she could have made this truly a transformation of like someone who was once her enemy into someone who could be a trusted ally. But having seen the inner depth of him, the seed has told her the truth, which is that people don't fundamentally change, and that she can't let Guy in on most information she has. I think to this point she has told him things which are safe to have told him, insofar as like beware the Vespertine and like don't trust Marlowe. But even that, Kyrrie pauses for a moment to wonder, did I just point him at Marlowe when Marlowe invariably shows up here? Did I just tell him where the seat of his power might be? That little inkling doubting voice in the back of her mind activates.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I think, yeah, she's very, very clear now. You are going to tell him only what you have to. You will lie to him if you have to. But for the moment, you are aligned in your interests, at the very least, in terms of getting that action done.
Excellent. Yes, and you have surmised this. You have come to this conclusion. So is there something that you want him to help you to do, or are you trying to extricate yourself?
I think she looks to him and she says, if you can get me into the library, I think that's all I need. And the rest of it, well, now that you know there's something going on here, now that you've discovered secret police force, I think you should focus on that. I'm going to need someone here. We all are going to need someone here to look after things. It's just going to get worse.
So what I am going to do is I'm going to turn a card, and that will inform his reading of you.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah, let's do it.
This one's for me.
Ooh. Oh dear.
Okay. Cool.
No, I don't get to know. That's terrifying.
Cool. And he says, great. Follow me. We can get you into the library without any problem. And he begins kind of directing you back towards the library. I am assuming you are following.
Yes.
As you guys get closer, he looks to you and he says, play along. And he starts expounding on theorem in pertaining to the transitive properties of silver spells, and whether or not the facet of darkness that is used in some spells, or at least purported to, denotes the ending of the beginning that the silver spell would offer. And he's kind of like talking ad nauseum. It reminds you of yourself, almost like when you spoke a sea of words and basically created cover for your escape. It's doing that almost without magic, psychically. It's meant to be kind of like this camouflage for the two of you as you're walking through, at which point you see a very firm hand stop him on his shoulder. And he kind of looks up with a start, and he is looking into the helm of a thaw. And the helm looks at him and says, "Name." "Well, Guy de Pompadour, pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am a..." Continue, before he can kind of get another word in edgewise. As you attempt to follow suit, that hand stops you. "Name."
I think she, like, her eyes imperceptibly go to Guy. Guy did not tell her what the name of this particular identity was. She wants to see if he'll, like, mouth it to her, and if not, she will just play along.
Yeah, he just looks at you, and he just starts, and he mouths Ember to you.
Ember.
Continue. And as you see the thaw kind of like looking to one another, you see almost in passing a what looks like a photographic or a representative likeness of yourself in the hands of one of them looking around the campus.
Yeah, I think this is the first time it really hits home for Kyrrie, like how dangerous this is, how dangerous sort of this mundane activity of like going into her own home, her own workplace, like when it's all activated, presumably trying to find and locate and God knows what, destroy maybe her. So it's this weird sort of sense for her of like encompassing familiarity, the halls that she knows, the floors and levels of her library, everything that's always made her feel safe and comfortable, at the same time invaded and like clearly violated by this outward force.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's scared and furious at the same time.
Oh yeah, and it's terrifying, you realize, as you see Thaw just walking casually, scanning sentry around several shelves of the library. There's just kind of one almost just kind of flipping past a massive illuminated manuscript on one of the kind of side stands behind one of the shelves. This is very much kind of like a defilement, it feels like, of your space, as just there are people here that are both new and old faces kind of looking to one another with concern. Among them, you see Ardeno, who just seems to be kind of standing back and kind of trying to kind of like step in and gently guide the Thaw without like touching them or making any kind of overt authoritarian movement. He is just trying to minimize the damage. He does not notice you as you walk in.
Yeah, I think there's something inside Kyrrie that obviously like reaches out towards him and under different circumstances instantaneously would have been drawn to him to ask him what's going on, to check in with him. But she knows that could only put him in more danger and also have a higher risk of giving herself away in this circumstance. So I think she has to keep up appearances and effectively continue walking.
Excellent. So you, I'm assuming, are you heading towards your office? What are you doing?
I think she's heading towards like the sort of parts of the library that are not accessible to the general Vancian public, that like you would need to be a librarian yourself to know how to access, which of course she does. But that's basically like what I imagine are the undercurrent carrier levels, right, of this building.
Mm-hmm.
The different levels where different books live, but where people don't rouse the stacks. And we haven't talked too much about what this library looks like really, but I think it's something that holds much more than books. I think it's sort of part museum containing like various relics and artifacts and statues, books of course too, but like weird phenomena, and I think even like ephemera get shelved here, like notions get shelved here, like any weird stuff in the actuality that you might need to access as a resource in some shape or capacity. A library gives that to you. I think there's even living things here in some levels and like bowels of the library, creatures, and that sort of thing, captured phenomena. And as a librarian, you have to be trained to deal with how to access those things and handle those things safely, equally as to strange books that fly or bite your face off, or any number of things that a book itself could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, bearing in mind your specialty of, language syntax, almost meta narrative and kind of meta philosophies almost, or meta science rather, is there anything you're particularly kind of drawn towards, or what does it look like as you make your way into your area of expertise?
Yeah, I mean, I think her domain within the library, each librarian is sort of given a different set of domain expertises. Like, think like the Dewey Decimal System, but instead of numbers, it's like thematically organized, and also organized around like principle and like thought parameter, like logical underpinnings of like the existence of a particular idea. So it's much more nebulously organized than something that's quite linear. But for Kyrrie, yeah, her subdomain really relates to her area of expertise. So she's most familiar with the linguistics section, which also connects to, some higher order ideas of, as you say, like metaphilosophy, metaphysics. It also touches into like some technological areas, insofar as like the Vance have, or even really people in Satyrine have, an understanding of technology and what that means. Some of those books, of course, live in the Grey, the sections to deal with the Grey, and some of them are even housed in the Museum of the Grey. But, I think there are some tomes which touch on sort of how these subjects are interpreted in the Grey, and how that differs in terms of their kind of being converted or translated into Vancian, and broadly the actuality as sort of understanding of the principles.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're kind of, what's your objective here? What are you trying to get for yourself?
Yeah, I think Kyrrie like thinks about that herself as she's walking, right? Because I think what she wants is knowledge. She needs more information about what's going on to try to understand how to fight it, or how best to strategize against it. And I think, she's learned some things here from Guy about what's been progressing in her absence, but equally recalling that she just experienced this like extremely intensive memory that she didn't have before, and she thinks it's real. It certainly feels real. This vision of having seen Allegra kill Arwen, and also somehow partnered with Nathaniel, who was her partner in the Grey, which doesn't make any sense to her. Like, why would he have been here with her sister? So there's sort of a desire to like confirm facts, right? So like looking in current events, trying to be like, what record is there of Allegra during her time with the Vance at school? Was there any record of Arwen existing as a student, or was all of that wiped? Is her only remaining record of existence in the war report? Is there any record of Nathaniel at all existing as a Visley, and who would he even be? So there's that sort of compulsion. Then there's the sort of academic or more theoretical compulsion, which is to look at her recent very strange experiences with spellcraft and with the current. Like, is there a record of, because the grimoire told her that like, if that knowledge exists in Zaleska's grimoire, it's classified. She wants to see, is there anything in folklore, in any sort of domain that might talk about the possibility of going to a current, of talking to spells, not just clothing yourself in them. And I think like she remembers Orod's sacrifice, the Omega spell, telling her like she might need lessons, and she doesn't know the first thing about what those might be. what kind of lessons, from whom, and the only place she thinks to start to look for any of these sorts of answers is the library, which has never failed her before.
Excellent. So I will tell you this. This is things you're going to have as a priori knowledge, which is you are under the effects of an ephemera item that will last probably a couple of hours at most. So I'm going to say that you may be able to study some of these things. You may not be able to study all of them. So I'm going to turn a card to see if anything urgent happens. But I would like you to think on which of these is the highest priority for you. All right. And the card that I drew here was the Watcher, which is the sovereign of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Your
That's
sovereign. Yep.
Yeah.
Parental figure, sight, alertness, observation, and knowledge. The wisdom that comes from taking the time to observe and contemplate before acting cannot be overstated. The Watcher watches. He observes from afar, assessing and contemplating. He records what he sees and analyzes the data. He remains ever vigilant from his vantage point. Nothing slips by his eternal gaze. The sovereign of mysteries, the Watcher is a father figure. He shares his knowledge with those close to him and advises those he deems worthy. The Watcher card indicates that one must pay close attention. Often the next card turn suggests exactly what they should pay attention to, but other times it is a more general guideline. Stay alert. Watcher presages the involvement of a parent or a parental figure, particularly in the context of imparting wisdom or knowledge. It is often considered a positive card for this reason. The movements of the stars are the thoughts of God given motion. So I'm going to say that this is what transpires. So you just turned your sovereign, which huge. So what this means is that you are going to find most of what you are looking for in unexpected ways, unexpected places. So the thing that immediately that strikes you is the most useful book. You think on Orod. You think on Orod's sacrifice. And as you think on that moment, you think to look for the more very kind of particular texts and work that he's done. And you realize that there is a book known as, colloquially, that he has at the very least had a part in reviewing and researching. And it's called Book M. And you know that it is within this archive. So that is the first thing you glean. The second thing you know is, as you're kind of looking around, you realize that Ardeno's workspace is not far from yours. So Ardeno, it strikes you in his subconscious experience, what you remember when you took the wicked key from him, is he may have been working towards something in his personal time. If there's anybody that might be looking for Arwen or would know that she exists or knew that she was, before she was censored from time, even subconsciously, it would be Ardeno. The third thing I will say is that you realize as you approach your workspace that there is a book waiting for you for the interlibrary loan system.
No. Yeah. I think that is going to be the first thing, knowing and suddenly seeing that book and remembering precisely what it was she did. She's going to go over to it and have a look at what may have come back from her venturing to call upon Avelia's aid somewhat secretly.
This was a long time ago, by the way.
It was.
So there, as you open the book, are 4 messages. So I am going to give you the text. Read all but the last one out loud if you would like.
Right.
That will be in the Discord message. Go ahead.
From Avelia. dated 8 months ago. K. I shook some of my father's underworld contacts to attempt to learn the whereabouts of your colleague, A, and even went so far as to hire a former Parasod member to track her down on campus. I seem to have struck a nerve, as the agent has not yet returned with news after initially finding that A, Alinea, was working on campus at the time of her disappearance. My father is growing suspicious as well. He thinks he knows that I know about the leaves of emotion he gave me for Basil's ritual. I know that he must have something terrible planned for him. When do you plan to help him? Reply at your earliest convenience. From Avelia, dated 5 months ago. K, with no response from you, I have to assume something terrible has happened to you and the other Visley with whom you traveled. B's patience has worn thin, and I'm afraid he is about to do something rash. If you are still alive, please reply. I am putting myself at risk, even writing this message. From Avelia, dated 3 months ago. K, if you and your friends are still alive, be careful. My father has recruited a new enforcer who seemed intrigued by the thought of. He calls himself the Mask. Keep a close eye on the shadows.
And from an unfamiliar hand. Miss V, if you are reading this, then know that Avelia is safe, but no longer able to write you. Please tell your mother that I remember everything. Tell my goddaughter that I wear the blue pinion and that I wait for all of you in the space between spaces. You can get there on purpose if you have the means and know the directions. Do not return this book.
Kyrrie's mind is lighting up. Ping, 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 ping. A lot of puzzle pieces begin to click together. The mask. Where have I seen a mask before? Who hides in shadows? Who hides in places between spaces? Connected to King 9. That can't be good. Oh, that can't be good. Or can it? It can't, though. It can't. No. King 9 and the... But what would he want with... Unless, oh, Gav needs to know about this. Gav needs to know about this fairly immediately, I would say. But I'm not to return the book. I can't return the book. I shouldn't return the book. Where was I 8 months ago? Avelia took this upon herself to help me, and I disappeared and left her with this task, and I'm no closer to having discovered what has happened to Avelia than I was before, and now I seem to have gotten her in trouble. She's safe, it seems, but who knows for how long.
Excellent. I will say that that last letter from Avelia should be intrigued by the thought of an interlibrary loan system.
Ah, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've gotten this bomb dropped on you right as you hear a door open leading up to the leading down to your office. I'm going to give you are going to have time for one of these two things. You can try to get book M to learn more about currents, as Orad knew of them, or you can spend this time and search for what Ardeno has been pursuing in his spare time.
This is such an interesting question for Kyrrie, because I think it really juxtaposes two different things in her, one of which is more about her desire to know herself, and the other is more about the desire to know the truth. And I think they are connected, but one is about, like, what she can do, and fundamentally that informs her place in the universe. It's about power, it's about magic, it's about possibility, and what knowing how magic as an architectural system is set up as can do for you in terms of using that to your advantage. It's strategic. And I think it occurs to her instantaneously that the strategic decision here is for sure to pursue Book M. It's the thing that's likely to give the most advantage. But there's a part of her that pulls slightly in that other direction, that, like, this memory has shaken her, this sort of vision of Allegra, her sister, murdering her protege, her someone by who all intents and purposes was extremely close to Allegra, and needing to know why and needing to understand why and what happened and what Nathaniel is doing there. There are these hooks in that question that I think do not appeal to Kyrie's brain. They appeal to Kyrie's heart in terms of the desire to know the answer to them. But I think given the short amount of time at the moment, and this happens when I think these things come into conflict in Kyrrie, not that they often do, but I think that this is what generally happens. Her mind overrides her heart and says later, we'll repress that, we will deal with that later. For now, you have to be acting, you have to be a strategic force, you have to make the logical, rational decision. And I think that pushes her with a ticking clock to go after Book M.
Yeah.
But before she does, just I think she's also like, where is Guy here? Has he followed her into her workspace?
He has stayed upstairs to ostensibly give you the opportunity to do what you need to do. Okay. I think, but I think just because I think he probably sensed an opportunity to kind of distract a couple of the thaw.
Yeah, very reasonable.
But that said, you don't know who is descending. Could be Thaw, could be Ardeno, could be anybody, could be Guy, could be somebody else. So, what do you do?
Yeah, I think she has a... this should be helpful, at least in finding a book, which it's funny because I've never really been able to use this. But I can... if I know where Book M is supposed to be shelved in the overall architecture of the entire Vancian library, then I have a cantrip called Shelved, where as long as it is a standard-sized book, it flies to its proper shelf and place, even if it is very far away.
Okay.
So if I use this cantrip and I know where Book M is supposed to be, even if it isn't there, I can find it if I use this cantrip.
Okay. So this is going to come at a cost, which is this is a cantrip. However, you know from your kind of understanding of where the very powerful artifacts, where the powerful items are in the Vancian Campus, that this has some extra safeguards on top of it. It probably is one of the most well-guarded items in the entire campus. That and the grimoire that you carry are two of probably the most precious volumes in this entire university. So in order to call with a cantrip, I am going to turn a card, and I would like you to roll 5d10. Tell me if any of them end up 0.
Okay. Also, before I do this, I should just add one quick detail. I also have a spell called Literary Query. I didn't pick this because I felt like this was a little bit more tendentious, but I'm going to give you the text in case you feel it's a better fit for the level of what I'm trying to do. Literary Query is a level 4 spell. I think of a question, and if there is a book in the Vancian library that can answer that question, and of which I am authorized to read, it appears in my hands. The question can, however, be to learn a given spell or something of that nature. If the book is not returned in a timely fashion, there will be consequences. I didn't pick that originally because it's less about locating a book, and also I don't know if I'm authorized to read Book M technically, but I just wanted to throw that out there as like another option.
I will tell you this. You can certainly try. I will tell you this. You can try that spell. However, what I will say is this, is that I'm going to turn, if you try that spell, I'm going to turn a card.
Okay.
And things may happen based on the card I turn.
Interesting.
So the idea is with that spell, you are trying to ask a question of it. You are not trying to pull it through space and get it into your grasp.
Well, it does appear, the book appears in my hands.
Mm.
So it does have that effect.
Okay. Does it say?
But I need to know the right question to ask, because
Okay.
I would have to be familiar enough with Book M to know what it answers, what kinds of questions are answered therein.
Okay. In that case, let me turn this card. All right.
I'm also happy to roll 5d10. I'm just giving you some mechanical options.
The misremembered dream. I love this. Yeah.
Fun.
Mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Confusion.
That's me.
Mistakes, change in identity. Dreams are strange constructs of our subconscious, made stranger still because we don't remember them clearly. Some say that in shadow, people's dreams seem strange because they're remembering the actuality. And in the actuality, people's dreams resemble the mundanity of the gray. This is at least in part true, but of course, like anything having to do with the deepest reaches of the mind, it's much more complex than that. The line between memory and dream is already tenuous, but the memory of a dream or the dream of a memory, who can count on that? The misremembered dream isn't necessarily a bad card turn. It suggests confusion or mistakes, but they don't need to be the confusion or mistakes of the person in question. We all dream, so this card can represent the poor memory or befuddlement of anyone. It might also suggest that one should adopt a new identity or disguise something important in order to succeed. People are often confused about something. An NPC makes a huge mistake. Something strange is occurring in the dreams of multiple people. Events transpire in the deeps of sleep. Interesting. Okay. Ah, yes, there were the rats coming out of the mirrors in the sky in my dream, weren't there? Okay. So, what I want you to, and that is literally the image, by the way, is 3 mirrors spitting out rats in the middle of a blue sky. So, you cast the spell. What is the question that you ask?
I think the question, just based on that card turn, I think it comes from Kyrrie's dream of the current, of the spells, of Orod's sacrifice, because that is the only place she has been in the current before. And so that is the only point of reference she has for the subject matter of this volume. And I think the question she asks is, how do I find the current again?
And you ask this question, and for a moment you feel this tension in the air of silence, and suddenly in the middle of the air around you, it seems to shudder, and a little mote of silvery light quickly grows and expands into a large circular mirror, ornate, and you see, almost as if willed through it, a book flying towards you, and into your hand it appears. At which point you see in your hand a very unornate, very simply bound, very thin volume, emblazoned with gilt gold letters on its cover, which is leather, Book M. And it opens, and it says, "The current of magic surrounds and binds all of the actuality. Indeed, it is in the very air we breathe. We are all a part of the current." And as you read this, the book snaps shut but stays in your hand, as if being willed there, and you can feel it almost pulling against you. Those footsteps grow closer. What happens? What are you doing in this moment as the sound of someone approaching gets ever more loud?
I think Kyrrie's first instinct as a librarian is to make sure that this knowledge is taken care of and is kept and put effectively where it should be and to useful effect. And I think the first thing that occurs to her for how to do this is she has her grimoire, or Zaleska's grimoire, holstered at her waist. And as you said, these are perhaps 2 of the most precious possessions that this campus university has. meaning these books probably know one another. And I think Kyrrie puts her hand gently on the spine of the Leska's grimoire, and she says to it quietly, "Convince Book M to stay and to be quiet."
You hear the grimoire, "Very well," in assent. And you just see a shimmer of light as the figure that is approaching seems to be a very large figure, beginning to move through the stacks. You for the time being in your office are fairly well obscured. You do not know how long you will have this. I will also say, however, you know that you cannot teleport yourself out of the Vancian Campus. There are actual wards against it. So what you do next is going to be very important. So what do you do?
It's a very good question, isn't it? I think, yeah, Kyrrie knows she can't just teleport out of here. And she also knows she doesn't want to cause a scene, and that her goal here is, I suppose, to get out quietly and like therefore have more capacity to use this knowledge. She does have a spell that can help here, which is invisibility based. Now, this is going to depend on whether or not there are detective. And I think this is something Kyrrie might know about the library, not necessarily know about whether it's been implemented in her absence, but in terms of like the level of security within the library itself, like unrelated to the thaw, are there sort of like magic detectors or things that would like sound alarms if you like try stealth or like try to make yourself invisible?
I will tell you this. You will probably only trip. I would say that you would know you would only trip such devices if you did them in the proximity of any artifacts that are sealed away.
Okay, yeah, right. To prevent thieves, that would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is, to her knowledge, is Book M so equipped? Like, can she get out of here with both books?
You do not know this. This is
Good
a bit above your pay grade.
It's almost like you're asking me to risk something, Zach.
Could be.
I can't just
could very well be
my way out of this. Gotta act with some information I don't have. All right. I think because brute forcing doesn't go well for Kyrrie, and presumably won't, she's not going to try to bluff her way out, or explain why she's been here. So, and she definitely wants to keep this book with her insofar as like it might be able to tell her more things about herself that she doesn't have currently time to sit here and read. I think she's going to try casting Vanish from Sight. This is a general sorcery spell, level 6, with a flourish, and if I choose, a puff of smoke approximately equal in size to me appears, I disappear, becoming invisible.
All right.
So I think what this suggests, although actually, if I choose a puff of smoke appears, so I don't necessarily, I think I can make it puff of smokeless, such that it wouldn't like alert someone around me.
I would rule that. I will say, however, because you are casting a spell and this is a tense situation, I am going to turn a card, and this is a testament card. Yeah.
No less.
So it stays in play. The Assassin, the adept of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Finesse.
Is this a Kyrrie episode or what? This is 3 of my cards.
I love this. He brings an ending. Endings can be welcome. The ending of something unwanted, for example, or when it suggests betrayal. It might be a relationship that comes to an end, but when this card is turned, it can indeed foretell literal death or the threat of death. If this is the case, the death will come from an unexpected quarter. An NPC is betrayed, an NPC is murdered, something significant, a dynasty, a tradition, an organization, comes to an end, something unexpected turns deadly, such as a bottle of wine turning to poison. Dealing death is a magical art all of its own. I have to do this. This is great. So, as you disappear from sight, you begin kind of huddling against the wall, kind of hugging it, trying to move past this figure. And this massive figure is not because it's some sort of juggernaut or some sort of horrifically sized creature. It's because it's very ornately dressed, and you recognize the style of bustle that Ota Clasp last wore in your previous run-in with her, as accompanying her is Guy, who looks and says, "I swear, she went down here." At which point, she begins surveilling. I will say this, because this is a side scene, you are not necessarily going to be caught, but the cards dealt what they dealt, which is, with casting this spell, you begin kind of very carefully moving around, trying to avoid this pair. And you watch as she kind of moves in parallel to you through the stacks. And the way she is looking for you, it's almost as though you hear just it's almost like she's seeking you out, but with almost a feeling of disdainful interest or kind of haughtiness. It's very strange as she's making her way forward. And the reason you kind of feel that way is because she's ignoring Guy. He says, "Well, I do hope that you remember this as I proceed to move up in the ranks of the Vancian Campus. It is, of course, no coincidence that my family has many of whom have set upon the Telemeric court." And she's completely ignoring him. She is looking, she is stalking you, and she is starting to feel the stacks. And at this point, you have moved past her back to your manner of egress, but not before you hear, "Well, I thought she had gone down here. She said she was and you hear something in the darkness, a unpleasant noise as you quickly make your way back up.
Ooh. What you get for playing politics, kid. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I think Kyrrie feels a certain, not just sadness, but a certainty. I think there's a warring in her between, of course you knew this would happen. Of course this was always how he was going to act. Of course he would betray you. This is why Vizsla don't change. This is why the seed told you what it told you. And yet, there's another part of Kyrrie's brain that says, is the fact that you believed it what sent him down this path? Is the fact that you decided not to trust him? Is the fact that you read him so plainly and judged him so immediately and dismissed his possibility of help something that pushed him to go to Oda, to explore a different avenue of power because you weren't willing to give him one? And I think a certain guilt wells up inside Kyrrie. There's no way to prove it one way or the other. If she had let him into her secrets, if she had trusted him with more of the truth. And in fact, a little part of her says you trusted him with the part of the truth that was safe to trust him with. But if you had trusted him more, the other counters, maybe that would have had the power to change him. And maybe this wouldn't have been his fate.
In this tense moment, dwelling in your own thoughts. The seed of inner truth says nothing, as is very clear that you have come to your own estimation. Where do
Kyrrie
you...
almost wishes it would, insofar as she wishes to know which of these things is right, but it's impossible.
Where do you...
Risk and consequence.
Risk and consequence. Where does the rest of the night take you? Or the day, I should say.
Yeah, I think outside of the library, now 2 books stashed surreptitiously under her cloak, Kyrrie looks at the campus she has always called her home and knows that it's no longer safe to be here. That, at least for now, she has no home anymore, institutionally, auspices-wise, or otherwise. And I think as she looks out at the wide expanse of Satyrine, she realizes how much she has chosen to stay within her cage in the city. That Twig so long ago was right. That her gilded cage, her university, that place she loved, was only safe for as long as the door to the cage would lock. And now that it's open, she would have to find somewhere new. And so I think Kyrrie faces for the rest of the evening what it means to be a nomad, to not have a place of belonging, to find a place that she can at least rest, recover, and plan her next move. And I think the place she chooses is that little bookshop where Yadavastra remains hidden inside the pages of one very specific book.
Excellent. And it is there that we will end our session. So, everybody, thank you for staying with us tonight as we learn a little bit more about the odds that are facing our dear Vizsla, in particular one Kyrriel von Hollingsworth. So let me just ask character arcs and anything in particular you want to kind of like recount in this previous session that you felt was very significant.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, very interesting stuff in terms of like Kyrrie having to start to face the consequences of her actions. I think there's a lot of stuff she put in motion the last time she was in Satyrine and then just sort of pieced out on, not having to see the end result of. And now that stuff is coming to a head. I think, you're starting to see Avelia. It seems to be safe for now, but was certainly in a lot of trouble. Things have happened, and I think even though she was sort of outside of that linear time, she is responsible for some of those things, right? Like she has a stake in making sure the stuff she set in motion does not ultimately harm the people she was trying to help. So I think there's that sort of weighing on her conscience. Obviously, the death, quote unquote, of Guy, or at least that's sure what it sounded like, is kind of gonna weigh on her for a bit. I think that's enough to kind of give her a despair, or at least to sort of push her in that direction. In part because I think she can't logic herself out of truly believing, even if that was like Guy's nature, that her decision not to fully trust him, not to send him to Yadavastra for protection, not to loop him in on more of the secrets, to withhold things from him based on the nature of their relationship, and like the fact they've always had that rivalry, that may have ultimately led him to his death, is a big... She's never been responsible for or felt responsible for anyone dying before. And so I think Kyrrie hasn't totally processed that, being honest. And I think we'll probably have to face that at some point. Real consequences of real decisions. On the plus side, she gained another powerful book, which she loves, and hopefully one that's going to help her advance the character arc that she currently has, which is to find her place in the great order of things. I don't know that it has done that quite yet, but I think that's definitely like a little bit on our way. We've acquired a book that might help teach us some things about that. So I look forward to digging into Book M and seeing what secrets it has to offer.
Excellent. I will say this. Take one acumen as you have taken a step on this character arc, and take two for acquiring Book M and making your estimation about Guy.
Isn't that always the question we ask ourselves as authors, right? It's like, if we didn't push a character in this direction, if we didn't do this to them, would they have had the capacity to make a different decision? But this is the path that we sent them down, and this is the decision they made.
In fairly, I can say fairly certainly that the consequences are going to be a little bit more weighted going into this, our final part. We are entering the end game. So yeah, look forward to that. And finally, shout outs and plugs. What you got going on?
Great question. Let's see, what do I have going on to shout out and plug? Well, if you haven't checked out The World Below, it's now that Kickstarter has completed, but it's one of Matthew Dawkins's new games, and I got to participate in an early actual play of it. So that is on the Queen's Court Games channel. So if you haven't gone to see it, go check it out. It's up on their YouTube. It's interesting. It's like OSMR, like an OSR style game, but like less crunchy than that, but still maintaining like some of the mechanical rigor that you might expect from a game like that. So as someone used to playing extremely narrative-driven games, it was a little bit to get used to, but definitely not as difficult as like, you only have 3 feet of rope and you need 5 feet of rope to get across this little crevasse. It definitely smooths all of that out and makes it much more of a balanced system, I think, between both sort of narrative potential and actual mechanical difficulty and strategic difficulty. So I really had a great time. And yeah, they do great stuff over there. So go check out Queen's Court Games. And yeah, that'll be my plug.
Awesome.
Also, keep your eyes on this channel because we do amazing things. Flights of Fandom will be coming back. Well, it's probably on right now. I just don't know what to tell you is on there. So Tuesdays at 8 p.m., tune into Flights of Fandom to see what wild and crazy fandom we've decided to engage with next, what system we've paired with it. And now that the writer's strike and actor's strikes are over, we look forward to returning to many of our favorite fandoms. So keep your eyes there and on all the wonderful other content that we have here on Manapod Studios.
Excellent. And as kind of like a little bit of a coda for that, there is a non-zero chance that this might even be running contemporaneous with our return to the Bridgerton universe. So who knows at this rate? We'll hope that it's a little bit preceding there, but guys, look forward to more Flights of Fandom. It's going to be a great time. I know for a fact that I'm also working on a small project that emphasizes my love of Muppets and also of swords and sorcery. So look forward to hearing more about that or watching it in tandem with this. Go hog wild.
Eyes emoji, eyes emoji, eyes emoji.
And finally, I just want to take this moment to say thanks to everybody who watched. Remember to take care of yourselves, to take care of each other, and to be good to one another. And above all, may the invisible sun shine on you all. Good night.
Goodbye, good luck, I'll miss you. Remember me this late, but when I leave, I still